Hi, everyone. I'm Mandy Giles, and I am here today with Indigo Giles, one of my kiddos who is a non-binary person, non-binary meaning that Indigo does not identify as either male or female, but somewhere else on the gender spectrum. So I asked Indigo to talk with us today from their dorm room at UT Austin because I woke up to this tweet from my darling child today. I can barely see what I'm typing through the angry tears that are filling my eyes right now. When will the attacks end? When will Texas stop holding my siblings hostage by constantly putting their safety and happiness on the line? Why do they want to hurt us so bad? And that just about broke my heart. So I wanted you to talk about what was behind that. What is going on right now in your life to make you write that sad tweet? And a little background for people who don't know, today was the first Senate committee hearing in Texas for the latest round of an anti-transgender sports bill. So Indy, can you explain a little bit about what got us here and what was behind that tweet?
Yeah, so where we kind of started was during the regular session back in the first part of 2021. There were a whole bunch of anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ bills filed, and we killed them all. And it was a great success. We didn't know, there's a couple times where it was looking dicey, but we pulled through and we got them all killed. And then the special session was announced, and hurting trans kids who are just trying to play sports was on the agenda once again. And we killed that one. And then there's a second special session and it was back on the agenda and we killed that one. And then now we're in special session number 3. And we knew going into it that for some reason they're not giving up, and the anti-trans sports bill was still going to be on the agenda. But that tweet that I made last night was when I found out that the healthcare bill is being revived for some reason, even though it's not on the governor's agenda.
So what is the healthcare bill? So for people who maybe are not following
so the healthcare bill is slightly different from the sports bill in that it's still very much anti-trans, very transphobic, with a direct goal of hurting trans children. But instead of restricting their access to sports, it's trying to restrict their access to gender-affirming healthcare. And this one is the most extreme version that we've seen, that's trying to get parents and medical professionals providing gender-affirming healthcare listed under the definition of child abuse, which of course we know is so wrong to try and criminalize parents loving and affirming their children. And so I had already been prepared to go back and fight the sports bill. And then hearing that the healthcare bill was back just shook me, like knocked me off my foundation. And I had already had such a long day that it caught me off guard. And that kind of grief of just like, when will it end, was overwhelming last night. And then slept on it, slept well, and turned that energy into the righteous trans anger that I always talk about for bringing me to the protest today.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the protest.
So the protest today was organized by Equality Texas with the help of Tent and ACLU and all of those great guys. And we decided that for this hearing, we were going to boycott the hearing instead of having our people go and testify like usual, because this Senate committee in particular I believe it's called the Health and Human Services Committee.
I
Could be
think
wrong.
it is. Mhm.
Is so nasty. And they've proven this time and time again, that they are not afraid to dig deep, strike where it hurts,
Yeah.
and generally just not respect us at all.
Right.
So we sent a few people in to explain why we were boycotting, and the rest of us lined up on the stairs right outside the Senate chamber, and chanted loud enough for them to hear us inside.
Good. Oh, good.
And I think there was upwards of 50 or 60 people there today.
Oh, that's great. That's
We
good.
packed the stairs. I think there was a TV crew there.
Always good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we were there for about an hour chanting.
Okay.
And we also got everybody who was there to protest registered as against the bill. So we got
Okay.
everybody to drop a card.
Okay. Well, good. That is good. Were there any counter protesters? I know at the protest that was yesterday, also to kind of mark the first day, the third special session, there were some like a little sad handful of counter protesters. Were there any today?
We didn't encounter any today.
Good. That's good.
There were a couple of members of the other side that walked through a couple times, but nobody said anything to us.
Okay.
I think they weren't as organized today.
Well, good. There you go. Because I know they can be hurtful, and it can be hard to hear some of the things that they say. I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that, for people who may not know, Governor Abbott sets the agendas for the special sessions. And so for the 3 special sessions, he has put this issue of prohibiting transgender kids to participate in sports that align on teams that align with their gender identity. And in theory, bills will only go through committee and be heard if they are germane to that topic. And yet, I think in the last 2 special sessions also, there have been all these random bills that are sort of tangentially related to attacking trans kids, like the healthcare bill. I saw one that was about changing birth certificates and how that was going to, a bill prohibiting that. So it makes me wonder, and I've heard this theory, I guess philosophy put out there, that this isn't about sports really at all. It's not, because a lot of people say like, oh, it's saving women's sports because boys are playing on the girls' teams. But if all these other bills are being filed, then is it about women's sports at all?
I think it can't be, because if that was the case, if the goal was really to help women's sports, it would be passing bills to increase funding for girls' teams, which are historically less funded than boys' teams. They would be passing bills to investigate and put harsher regulations on the sexual assault and sexual abuse that happens in coach-player relationships,
Right.
Which we've seen so many brave athletes talk about recently, including our very own U.S. women's gymnastics team.
Right.
So there's so many other real issues that women in sports face, and this is not one of them. And nobody anywhere can cite one singular instance of this being a problem here in Texas.
Right.
So, and by this, I mean a woman being pushed out of their team because of a trans person or something like that, or being injured by a trans person.
Right.
Because it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Yeah, they're trying to legislate solutions to problems that don't exist, and that's bad lawmaking.
Sure.
When you try and preempt preemptively solve a problem, then it's when there are other completely real problems that exist that need solving. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of taxpayers' money,
Yeah,
and it's simply ridiculous.
I totally agree. And exhausting, I'm sure. I know that even though you could say that our side, I guess, is winning, yay, 70-0. We've pushed back on 70, killed 70 anti-LGBTQ bills from when the session gavelled in January up to now. So you'd think we were winning, and yet even just talking about all this is harmful to the transgender community in particular, and to those who love them and care for them, and especially kids. So I'm wondering, how are you doing? And as a mom, this is especially hard for me to see you being attacked and your humanity, along with your twin, who is also non-binary. So it's hard to see my children's existence being questioned, and their humanity being questioned and erased. So if it's hard for me, I can only imagine how much harder that is for you. Can you talk about that a little bit, even though it sounds like we're winning, but we're not, and yet it's all going on?
Yeah, it's a weird position to be in. Because it's the kind of thing where, even though I'm not the person that's being directly targeted by these bills.
Sure, because it's high school, right? Or UIL. Sports.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the sports bills, it's targeting UIL divisions, and I didn't even play sports in high school anyway. And and for the healthcare bills, they're targeting minors, which I am no longer. So none of the bills that are trying to get passed directly affect me, but they affect people that I know and care about. And they affect so many other people that I don't know yet, but that I still care about. And it opens doors, even though none of these 70 plus bills have passed, just the fact that they're being talked about, the fact that they're being discussed is so harmful. Like every time I have to go into one of those hearing rooms and listen to people spitting the most vile, vitriolic, transphobic BS. I don't know if I can swear on your channel.
Sure.
Bullshit.
Okay.
It's hard, and it gets harder. But I keep coming back because it's what I have to do. And even though we're winning, so to speak, they just keep filing them. So it's hard to feel like we're winning, and it's hard to feel like we're making a difference, even though I know we are. Yeah. It's a challenge, but
sure,
you have to kind of find the moments that aren't as challenging. Like the good thing about going to the protest today was that I got to hug on a lot of the members of my community that I don't get to see often, when we all come together for events like this. So that's how I get through it.
Okay. Well, if people want to help and help fight, maybe they don't live in Austin and they can't go testify in person, because this bill will probably pass the Senate committee and then be scheduled to be heard in the House committee, the whatever committee it'll go to. There's a new one, so we'll have to kind of see how that's working out. So people live in Austin, they can go testify in person there, but what advice would you have for someone who's like, hey, I want to help out, what can I do?
Right. So for people who live in Austin, you can go testify first and foremost. If you don't feel comfortable speaking in front of all those people,
Mhm.
totally fine. I get it. Well, I don't get it personally because theater kid things, but I understand. So you can submit written testimony, and the
Okay,
folks over at Equality Texas will help you with that.
great.
And if you don't have time to write out a testimony, swing by the Capitol, drop a card. It
Mhm.
takes 3 minutes tops.
Mhm.
And if you don't have time to come out to the Capitol, or if you're not in Austin, the number one thing you can do is call your reps and call your senators,
Okay.
and let them know that you are asking them to vote no on SB3 and any other anti-trans legislation that crosses their committees.
Okay.
And God forbid these make their way to the floor. But if they do,
Yeah.
every representative will need to be alerted that this is not what Texas stands for.
Sure.
And if you're not in Texas, you can call the governor's office. Because if you're not in
Give him
Texas,
a
you
piece
don't.
of your mind.
Yeah. If you're not in Texas, you don't have a Texas representative or a Texas senator, but you can go all the way to the top and ask his office to not vote yes on any of these bills if they somehow make their way to his desk. So there's a lot of things you can do. And you can also donate to organizations like Equality Texas, the Texas Education Network, TENT,
The Transgender Education Network of Texas.
Network of Texas, yes, that's right.
Which is trans-led. I want to point out, which is important.
Yes. You can also look for ways to get involved with the ACLU. There's lots of ways to put your personal talents to work. And I can, if you don't know already, Mom, I can help you figure out how to link those organizations in the description.
I may need help. We'll see.
For people to have easy access to those.
Great. Okay.
There's always something to do to help.
Great. Okay. Well, yeah, it's important that we make our voices heard and that we fight. That's why I am fighting to, even though, like you said, my children are no longer minors and they're not playing sports in UIL, but it's for all the other families who have kids that are going through this right now. And for me to model to you and to Mars that you are worth fighting for, and I will fight every time for you. So thank you for being with me today. It's always good to see you. I know you came straight from the protest, so I appreciate you taking time out of your busy college day. And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. Love you, sweetie.
Love you too.
Bye. Bye.